Very few places on Earth are totally clean and free of any toxins whatsoever. But there are some places on Earth so toxic you should not even set foot anywhere near them. From towns which reduce your life expectancy just by going there, to towns so full of toxic gas they've been on fire for decades. And even a city where toxic waste oozes out of every crack in every building. 𝗙𝗵𝗿, Ghana. 𝗙𝗵𝗿 is very dangerous and toxic. That's because it's one of the largest e-waste processing areas in Africa. E-waste is electronic waste, and if you don't know, all electronic waste contains lots of toxic chemicals. If you've ever wondered what happens to your old phone or laptop when you get rid of it, it probably goes here. All electronic waste has toxic chemicals inside it, and when it goes to one of these processing areas, which are normally in Africa, all of the bad things in them spill out into the environment. In 𝗙𝗵𝗿, there's toxic chemicals in the ground, water, and atmosphere. Electronics are broken down, burned, and processed here. The lead levels in 𝗙𝗵𝗿 are 50 times the US standard. To make things even worse, all of the people who live here do the job of going through all of the e-waste. They do this to try and find valuable metals and computer parts that can be reused. But of course, this leads to bad health consequences for everyone involved. Around 40,000 Ghanaians work in the area. The living conditions are very harsh, and there's a lot of crime. Locals call the place hell on earth. That's because there is constant burning and chemicals going into the air. To make things even sadder, 𝗙𝗵𝗿 was a former wetland. It used to be amazing, beautiful nature, but now it's a big pile of burning electronics. Because the people who work here are paid so little, they normally never make it out. And their life expectancies are very short because they're breathing in toxic fumes all day, every day. 𝗨𝗵, Japan. Before 2011, the population of 𝗨𝗵 was 17,000 people, but today only around 1,000 people remain. That's because 𝗨𝗵 is located in the Fukushima prefecture. Of course, in 2011, an earthquake and tsunami caused a nuclear disaster in Fukushima. This led to the area around the nuclear power plant being evacuated for a long time. Almost 10 years on, some of the areas are slightly more safe. But 𝗨𝗵 remains one of the most dangerous and toxic places in Japan. It's deemed a no-go zone. The town, located within the 12-mile exclusion zone, is totally silent and eerie. Recently, authorities have divided it into 3 zones based on their level of radioactive contamination. Former residents are allowed to visit Zone A, but just for the day, they can't stay overnight. Zone B can be visited for a few hours at a time. But Zone C remains closed off and is guarded by the military. These zones will stay the same until at least 2025. There are still high levels of nuclear radiation all over the town, and just staying here overnight could cause your life expectancy to go down very fast. That's because the radiation destroys your cells. You could even have other physical injuries, such as radiation burns. Dzержinsk, Russia. Many decades ago, Dzержinsk was a beautiful area of nature in Russia. But between 1930 and 1998, more than 300,000 tons of chemical waste was dumped here. The water is contaminated with dioxins and phenol. The water levels are reportedly 17 million times the safe limit. This has had terrible consequences for the nearby cities. 190 different chemicals have since leaked into the city's groundwater, and this makes the city, which is next to the lake, one of the most polluted cities in the world. The life expectancy in the city is 42 years for men and 47 years for women. That's because every time they wash in or drink the water, they're consuming chemicals. Scarily, around 250,000 people live in this city. Even more scarily, one institute found mustard gas in the town. They also said that sarin gas may be present. Centralia, Pennsylvania. In the 1960s, Centralia was a picture-perfect Pennsylvania coal mining town. But in 1962, they had a big fair. This created a lot of trash they had to get rid of. Someone in the town had the idea to dig a big hole by the mine. They would dump all the trash into that and then set it alight. It sounds crazy, but on the 27th of May 1962, that's exactly what they did. But as soon as they did this, the fire quickly spread into the other areas of the coal mine. The coal mine spread all over beneath the town, and within a matter of hours, the inferno had gone out of control. Eventually, the roads got so hot all of the car's tires melted. The roads and people's floors began to crack, and from the cracks emerged smoke and fire. Sinkholes began opening up and people began falling into them. Smoke and poisonous gases also came out of these holes, and many residents began falling very ill. It sounds like something from a horror movie, but this really happened to a Pennsylvanian town. By 1990, the town's population had gone down from 1,000 to around 60 people, and today only a few homes remain. All of these houses are very unstable and look like they could fall down at any minute, and smoke and toxic gases still come out of the cracks in the ground. Believe it or not, this creepy abandoned town was the inspiration for the video game Silent Hill. In 2021, only a few very stubborn residents refused to move out, and experts believe the fire could continue to burn for another 100 years at least. La Oroya, Peru. This is a mining town located in the Peruvian Andes. Because of the mining, there is lots of lead, arsenic, and cadmium in the soil. This is spread throughout the entire town, and this is because of an American-owned smelter which has been polluting the city since 1922. The smelter is owned by New York billionaire Ira Reynolds, who lives here. In the town, 99% of the children have blood lead levels which exceed the acceptable limits. Sadly, what was once a very nice-looking mountainous town is now poisoned. One young girl named Isabel has breathed toxic air all her life. She's also had heavy metals in her blood for her entire life too. Chernobyl, Ukraine. Chernobyl is one of the most famous toxic places on Earth. In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant melted down. This caused an explosion and a massive nuclear incident. Radioactive dust, including uranium, plutonium, and other metals, continue to plague the area. This includes the town of Pripyat too. That's because they both fall into the 19-mile exclusion zone around the nuclear plant. There was once 14,000 residents, but within a few hours one day they all had to leave, otherwise they could have passed away. When the nuclear meltdown happened, 50 people lost their lives, and it's believed around 4,000 may eventually pass on because of the radiation exposure. Linfen, China. Linfen sits at the heart of China's coal belt. This is the main place of industry in China. Smog, soot, and pollutants are very common, and at almost every hour of the day the air is totally black. There are many cases of people having bronchitis, pneumonia, and lung issues. There's also arsenic found in the water here. The children of the area have high rates of lead poisoning because of the air pollution. Gilman, Colorado. Gilman was once a mining town. They mined silver, zinc, and lead for many years. But eventually they found dangerous levels of contaminants in the soil and water here. That's when the town was abandoned and all of the residents left. It has dangerous levels of arsenic, copper, lead, and zinc. Almost no one is still here except for a few very stubborn residents. But now it's time to make your voice heard. Comment below which toxic place was the scariest.